transformed by the renewing of your mind. God is the one that gives you the mind renewal. Because you were born into this world with a certain mindset. You were born into this world at enmity with God. So God will give you a mind transformation so that you will be friends with God and you will reconcile with God and you will be at enmity with this world. Because this world is at enmity with God. That's the reason why you can't serve the world and serve God. God is not going to deal with anybody that's holding hands with his enemies. And he shouldn't, and neither should you. See, some people will try to play both sides of the fence. They'll try to be friends with the world, and then they'll try to be friends with God. Somebody like that, you're going to bust hell wide open. I don't care who you are. God don't hold hands with the devil. And let me tell you something. That's a game that humanity will play. Even as it pertains to relationships and friendships, I warn people against dealing with people that are friends with their enemies. Now, I understand a lot of times when we're all very young, we tolerate a lot of things when we're young that after we come to Christ and get some knowledge and some wisdom and some common sense that we don't tolerate anymore. So until you come to Christ, you will tolerate people that you're friends with being friends with your enemies. Until you come to Christ, you will tolerate people sleeping with your enemies. Literally. Until you come to Christ and you don't tolerate that anymore. You'll tolerate people hanging out with you and then go across the way and hang out with your enemies. Or for you sisters out there, a man that comes and acts like he's courting you or dating you and then he goes to another woman's house after he leaves your house. Or for you fellas out there, a woman that will come and act like she's your woman, she's your lady, and then she goes to another dude's house after she leaves your house. You'll tolerate that type of foolishness and buffoonery until you come to Jesus Christ and realize you shouldn't deal with anybody that is dealing with your enemies on a personal level. And the reason why I say a personal level is because sometimes you may be involved with somebody and they have to deal with your enemies, especially if it's in a business or a professional setting. I'm not speaking in regards to that manner. I'm talking about people that are people that are two-faced. People that are playing both sides of the fence. God don't deal with two-faced people. That's what I'm talking about. So neither should you. See, humanity has a tolerance level that God does not have as it pertains to things like that. God is not going to tolerate it. So that's the reason why to be friends with the world is to be at enmity with God. You understand? God says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. And then he goes on to elaborate about the things of the world that are not of the Father, but are of the world. And I'm telling you, those things will send you to hell. They will send you to hell. A lot of people may say, well, they may feel like that's a bit extreme. No, it's not extreme. Because one thing you must understand is that God is holy. God is perfect. So the punishment has to be in complete perfection as it pertains to the violation of God's laws, rules, and regulations. Is that making sense? You're dealing with a holy God. You're not dealing with a half-stepping God. You're dealing with a perfect God. You're not dealing with an imperfect God. So just as God is holy, the punishment for going against his holiness has to be perfect. That's the reason why hell is perfect evil. Oh my gosh. I'm talking to somebody. I'm talking to somebody out there. So when you have faith in God, you have to have perfect faith in God. It doesn't have to be this big thing, but it must be in perfection. So what do I mean by perfection? Meaning you must trust him without wavering. Because if you waver, your faith is not in a state of perfection. But when you trust God wholeheartedly, then your faith is in a state of perfection. Jesus said, if you had faith as the size of a grain of a mustard seed. Oh my gosh. He said something about speaking to the mountain and things of that nature. So it means, do you all know the size of a mustard seed? So Jesus is saying you don't even have to have this big, humongous, thinking he's going to take trees and fly them through the sky type of faith. He's saying, just believe me a little bit. Just believe me a little bit. And I believe he'll do a lot. Oh my gosh. So I guess that's the message for somebody out there today. A lot of you out there, you may be worried about your employment. Because let me tell you about job security. There is no such thing as job security. I don't care what your profession is. There's no such thing as job security. You know what? I really stepped into the realization of that when the planet was dealing with COVID. And I was hearing things about nurses and doctors getting fired. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't want y'all to think I'm somewhere shut away in a cave and don't know what's going on in the world. But let me tell you, when I heard that, it surprised me. I'm thinking, well, how do you fire hire doctors and nurses, and these people are needed, and because let me tell you something. There's no such thing as job security. As long as Satan is the God of this world, little g, there's no such thing as job security other than in Jesus Christ. For those of you that you have a job, Jesus is looking out for you. For those of you that you're going to get another job, Jesus is looking out for you. For those of you, you may have been fired from your jobs. Jesus is still looking out for you because perhaps he has something better for you. Because God sees what you don't see and he hears what you don't hear. You understand? And a lot of you you're at jobs where you're not going to advance. A lot of you may be putting in for like, what do you call it? Oh, my mind's a little blank. You guys may be putting in for higher positions at your workplaces, and no matter how much you try to get the position, they always look over you. Well, evidently there's some devil that doesn't want you to advance in the company. Now, a lot of you may be peeping this, and a lot of you may not be peeping this, but let me tell you something about a pack of devils. They only want their own with them. They don't want anybody that may serve as an opposing force or as an opposite voice to what their agenda is. You understand? So when God sees something like that, sometimes instead of removing the devils, he'll remove you. So he will advance you to another position at another company. And it may not be what you wanted originally, but Father knows best. I'm talking to somebody out there. As long as you have the mentality that Father knows best. Let me tell you something. Before Jesus went to the cross, he asked Father to let this cup pass from him. And then he said something like, but not my will, but thy will. Oh my gosh. See, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Are y'all getting this thing? Father knows best. Your marriage didn't work out, my sister? Well, Father knows best. Your marriage didn't work out, my brother? Well, Father knows best. Oh, that job didn't work out for you? Well, Father knows best. Because for a lot of you, he might want you to go into business for yourself. Why do you feel like you should come to this planet? Even though Satan is the God, little g, of this world. Jesus said, I've given you power and authority. It is because of the cross that you were reconciled back to God, so now God can come into your life and do some things for you. So why do you feel like you should always be punching somebody else's time clock? Why don't you have somebody punching yours? Why don't you start your own company? A lot of you may say, well, you know what? I would do that, but I can't think of nothing I want to do. Have you talked to God about it? Have you gone to God about it? Have you asked Father for his ideas? Well, Father, I do want to work for myself. What should I go into? What can I get started in? I may not be interested in the beginning, but I may develop an interest and then a passion for it. See, that's how you do, y'all. That's how you do. You understand what I'm saying? You got to go to God with it. Hang on, you guys, because my toboggan just fell off my head. Almost. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm out here looking like I don't know what.